Spanish squat. So this works best with some sort of strap that has minimal stretch. I'll see people who do this at a gym where they use the resistance bands that are like the continuous loop, and they don't use a stiff enough band, so when they go down, the band will stretch and they'll shift their center of mass forward and end up loading their hips. So the idea of a Spanish squat is that we're really loading the extensor mechanism or the quad muscles on the front of my legs here. So this is just a legit tie down strap from home that I have ratcheted down, and it works best if you have the ones that have they're not as aggressive as the ratchet strap because they're easier to set up, but the ones that have the pull through system. But I have these little guys that have the hooks, and then what I like to do is make a loop, and then I want to close that loop off. So now my circle is closed like so. And then what you're gonna do is you're going to wrap that around the squat rack or some sort of a movable object. This is why you don't want one that's as big, because it doesn't stay together as easily. But it works. Okay, so my loop is closed, and then I reach it around the squat rack, and then you essentially kind of have to adjust the strap to make sure that you're going to get the nylon portion behind your knees, and then I want it to be about knee height when I get set up. So I'm going to step into the strap and then into the opposite strap. And then again, I'm trying to set this up to where it is about knee height. Now, I like to have my feet back just a little bit so that when you go down, you don't feel like your feet are gonna slide out from under you that way. So if I get my feet too close to the rack, when I go down, I feel like my feet are gonna slide, and then it makes me lean forward and load my hips a bunch. So I like to scoop my feet back just a little bit to where it feels awkward, almost like I can't stand all the way up. To me, that's fine, because the goal of the movement is to put the load into your quads. So hip width apart, normal squat setup. Maybe it's a little bit more narrow than usual, but how we can load this is you have to play with your hip setup. So most people, when they go to do this, they're gonna be like this position, chest down, and I'm loading into my butt. Think about putting your hands out in front of you as a counterbalance, so that way your chest stays upright and we can load into your quads, come back down. Maybe we just start with a partial range of motion squat, and then from there, you're trying to increase your depth and keep your chest upright, get to that bottom position, and come back out. Oftentimes, we'll use these with tendinopathies, and you're coming down to that bottom position for like a quadriceps tendinopathy, that deep knee flex position, or if we're doing like a jumper's knee or patellar tendinopathy, we're gonna hold in that kind of mid-range position. But like if I hold this position and I lean forward, I still feel it in my quads, but not nearly as much as if I stay upright in my torso position. So you need to play with your setup to match the demands of one, your strength, and two, whatever it is that we are either rehabbing or strength training. So what I mean by that is if we're doing like a patellar tendinopathy, you need to be holding the isometric in a position to where you fail at that 30 or 45 second mark, kind of in that ballpark area. Or if you're doing like a quadriceps tendinopathy, you're gonna be a little bit deeper, closer to hips being parallel to the floor to mimic that 90-degree joint angle. Or if you're somebody that we're just using Spanish squats to develop your quad strength through a range of motion, the idea here is you have to play with your trunk position, your depth, and the load that you're using in order to load those thigh muscles. So if you don't feel it in your thigh muscles, more than likely you're doing something funky with your trunk positioning. Set a camera up, use a mirror, do whatever you can to get some feedback to change your positioning, just so that we can load those quad muscles.